This is the afternoon weather briefing. This is for Tuesday, the 24th of September. I'm James Spann. All eyes on the Gulf of Mexico. But let's not forget, we have some strong storms in progress this afternoon in parts of northwest Alabama. In fact, let's begin with the radar. There's much to talk about today, so just strap in. We'll start with the current situation. We're live at 246, and we have strong storms developing over parts of central and northeastern Mississippi, northwest Alabama, in parts of Middle Tennessee. And we note a couple of severe thunderstorm warning polygons for parts of North Mississippi for the storms just southwest of Tupelo. And the storms that will be moving through the Tennessee Valley this evening will be capable of producing some small hail and strong gusty winds. There's a closer look at the current activity, again as of 246. Got a heavy thunderstorm in Franklin County between Red Bay and Russellville. Got some pretty strong storms west of the Shoals back up toward Waterloo. And again, maybe some small hail, strong gusty winds. So we'll be watching those fairly carefully. But really, that's about it. The rest of Alabama is rain-free. The better chance of thunderstorms initially this evening across the Tennessee Valley, and then rain chances gradually increase statewide tonight and tomorrow. Here's the big picture. The trough that's been advertised is developing as expected. The axis from Minnesota and Wisconsin down to Texas, ridging back in the western states. Visible satellite view got a field of cumulus clouds across the state this afternoon. And there's the radar composite showing those thunderstorms across North Mississippi, northwest Alabama, and Middle Tennessee. Temperatures in many spots again today at or over 90. And this should be the last day we see 90s for a while, maybe for a long while. So here's the watch warning map. North of the state, there is a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for parts of middle and eastern Tennessee. And then for southeast Alabama, we have a flash flood watch in advance of Helene, the tropical system coming in. That would include Dothan, Geneva, Ozark, and Enterprise. And that flash flood watch might be expanded northward, especially over the eastern counties of the state at some point during the day tomorrow. So here's the severe weather outlook for the rest of today and tonight. We have risks to the north and west. And again, that risk north of here kind of noses down into the Tennessee Valley of North Alabama for tonight. So again, where the storms form this evening, the storms could produce small hail and strong straight-line winds. Now, tomorrow, SPC has introduced a low-end marginal risk of severe storms for parts of southeast Alabama. This would include Montgomery, Auburn, Opelika, Monroeville down to Dothan and Andalusia. The areas in darker green on that map. And again, the main concern, some small hail, gusty winds in advance of the trough. This is not directly with a tropical system. And then on day 3, which is Thursday, this is in association with Helene. A marginal risk over North Florida and parts of South Georgia. That's for the possibility of isolated brief tornadoes on the east side of the circulation of Helene. So rain for the next 7 days. Heaviest rain over the eastern side of the state. Rain amounts there could exceed 4 inches. That's where you see the yellow. Amounts in West Alabama, 2 to 3 inches. The lighter totals down in southwest Alabama. Places like Mobile, Grove Hill, Chatham, maybe about 1 inch. And understand that as we get more clarity on Helene, these numbers could change over the next day or two. So just keep that in mind. But at the moment, looks like a pretty decent wet down for much of the state. So here's the wide picture of the tropics this afternoon. Of course, we'll focus on Helene in just a second. The other disturbance in the eastern Atlantic with a high chance of becoming a depression or storm over the next 7 days. And this will slowly be gaining latitude, and there's a decent chance this will ultimately recurve. That's not locked in stone here, set in stone, but typically, when you start to see them gaining latitude out there, that's the case. But it's a long, long way out there, just something to watch. So Helene doing her best to get her act together here. The circulation center is still not really connected with a deep convection, which means there's still some shearing involved here. The top winds are 45 miles per hour, and the circulation center about 175 miles south of the western tip of Cuba. And the latest track from the Hurricane Center, this is the one released at 1 o'clock Central Time this afternoon. And really no change since yesterday afternoon, basically. This is expected to be a major Category 3 hurricane at the time of landfall tomorrow, Thursday evening, not tomorrow, but Thursday evening. And the landfall point would be south of Tallahassee. And then the remnant circulation coming up through central Georgia and then dissipating near Indianapolis. And remember, as I think you do if you watch these videos enough, that the main impact in terms of storm surge, wind, freshwater flooding, isolated tornadoes along and east of the track line, the center line. And so in terms of the Florida Gulf Coast, the main impact in terms of the storm surge and the really dangerous type impact would be from Apalachicola east and really Carabel on east, down around towards Cedar Key and Tampa Bay. They're going to see a pretty good storm surge from this thing. The good side, it's the west side. East is the beast, west is the best. And the good side would include, obviously, the Alabama Gulf Coast. Hardly any impact there. Pensacola, Navarre, Destin, 30A, even Panama City Beach. Now, they're going to understand it's going to be windy and wet. Don't get me wrong, but nothing like what it's going to be on the east side of that thing. The central Gulf Coast, Gulf Shores to Panama City Beach on the better west side. Modeling, ATCF set, pretty good agreement with the Hurricane Center track, amazingly consistent here. And this is the intensity guidance coming off the ATCF set. And again, there's just a really big spread, and this is the one hard part of this. It's the intensity forecast. You've got a few members that ramp it up to a Category 4, a few that bring it to a Category 3. Most are in that Category 2 range. And you got a few members that keep it a tropical storm. So it's just all over the board here. And again, this thing is trying to get its act together, and once the system develops and we get this good core, then I think we'll know much more within the next 24 hours. But you have to plan on a worst-case scenario of an upper-end major hurricane for those in the path of this thing. But there could be some shear involved as the system approaches the coast and some weakening right before landfall. That's definitely on the table with that trough axis to the west. Storm surge, Florida Big Bend, 10 to 15-foot storm surge. That's a big one. It'll cause a lot of problems. Now, Tampa Bay, the storm surge there, expected to be 5 to 8 feet. And even some storm surge issues all the way down to Fort Myers Beach and basically down to the Keys. The yellow zone, that's 3 to 5 feet on the west coast of Florida. But again, in terms of the panhandle, there's no storm surge on the west side of the system because it is an offshore flow. You got to have that onshore flow east of the circulation center for a storm surge problem here. So let's go through modeling real quick. This is the GFS model fans. The 12Z run valid tomorrow afternoon at 4. Very impressive trough axis just west of here with an upper low basically near Memphis. And again, what's going to happen in advance of the trough and a surface front, rain will be increasing across Alabama tomorrow. Understand it's not going to rain all day, but occasional rain likely. Temperatures will likely be in the 70s all day because of clouds and rain. So, again, let's look at the upper air view of this Fujiwara effect. This is just fascinating to me. You can see how Helene is rotating around that deep upper low and ultimately absorbed by the upper low. And again, that's more like the action you would see out there in the Pacific or deep in the Atlantic, but not here across the southeastern states. But pretty fascinating to see how that thing plays out. So let's look at specific modeling for Thursday. And Thursday, obviously, will be a fairly wet day for Alabama. Still not raining all day. I think the heaviest rain for Alabama, the inland parts of the state, will be Thursday evening and Thursday night, then ending Friday morning. So this is Thursday evening at 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern, the GFS. And it has Helene coming into the Big Bend region, a little above Cedar Key. This is the European. Same time, 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern, very close to the GFS, maybe a smidgen more to the left, a little to the west of that, but again, it's the same concept. And again, this is the AI version of the European. And I've said this a lot, but it's true. This thing did really well with Francine this year. And we'll see how it performs with Helene. It's got the system a little farther south. This is valid again, Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. Got the circulation center that's west of Tampa Bay that'll be coming up toward the Big Bend. So all the models are in agreement with that. In terms of the wind in association with the core of the hurricane, obviously the peak winds are going to be, again, in North Florida along and east of the landfall point, and then up through parts of Georgia, Ultimately, the Great Smoky Mountains could see a lot of wind with this, especially up there in the high elevations of East Tennessee and western North Carolina. For Alabama, these are 10-meter winds, by the way, not right at the surface. But for Alabama, if you're in Dothan, you might see winds of a wind gust of 40, maybe 45. For East Alabama, winds could be gusting to 30, 35. West Alabama may be gusting to 30. And typically, that's not enough to bring down trees or power lines or cause any big problems. So breezy, wet weather for Alabama. Again, the rain begins tomorrow with a front, and the tropical rains come in here Thursday afternoon, Thursday night, and Friday morning. And then during the day Friday, again, what's left of Helene is up there over North Carolina, and the big rains are over by Friday evening, but there could be a few scattered showers, probably not many. So for the high school football games in the state Friday night, yes, maybe the few spotty showers about, but nothing widespread. The high Friday will be in the mid-70s, clouds around, but really not raining that much after mid-morning Friday. So this is Saturday, same thing. Could there be a shower? Yes, but I think much of the day dry. Looks pretty favorable for the Auburn and the Alabama football games, big ones. Auburn hosting Oklahoma, Alabama hosting Georgia. And could there be a shower? Yes, absolutely, but they'll be kind of random and scattered and probably not many. And the high Saturday, most likely around 80 with a mix of sun and clouds. Same thing Sunday, and really the same thing on Monday. We'll mention scattered showers, and then a week from today, this is Tuesday, October 1st, troughing over the eastern states, and that looks fairly dry. Let's go out 10 days. This is Friday of next week, October 4th, big trough in the east, and if that works out, the weather should be very dry and pleasant. Rain for Birmingham, this is coming off the GFS, and it's got the mean closer to 3 inches. The European was more aggressive with 4 inches. Between now and the 7th of October. And again, the 90s are off the board. All right, if you're a cool weather fan, that's good for you. Highs in the 70s and maybe low 80s for the weekend. But notice the high mid-70s on Thursday and Friday because of clouds and showers. Latest long-range guidance, this is for October 2nd through October 8th. Temperatures near, maybe slightly above average. We'll go back and recheck everything in just a second, but hey, I got to roll some Children's of Alabama Kid Cam video. Not 1, not 2, but 3 stops today. Come on now, and I like that. That's a way to greet me, so pulling into the school there. The first stop was Owens Crossroads Elementary School in Madison County up in the Tennessee Valley. Let me tell you what, those kids were just so good today. Oh, you can learn science and get excited. We had a great time today, and I like those cookies. I like that Alabama State Bird cookie. That's outstanding. And speaking of the State Bird, this shirt is good right here. And I really like the back. You know, that's how I deal with the trolls. Good morning to everybody but this guy. But those kids were so good today. So again, to everybody out at Owens Crossroads, thanks a lot. And then stop number 2, New Hope Elementary. Just right down the road, also in Madison County, had an auditorium full, and they were good today. And, ooh, I like those cupcakes. Yes, indeed. We've had some treats today, and we had a great time. It is a storm spotting session for these guys. Hey, you come out of my sessions, you're going to be a storm spotter. You'll never look at a storm the same again, but they were just great today. Stop number 3. Danville Neal Elementary School over in Morgan County. Gym full, same thing. Those kids were great today. I love a 3-for-1 special, 3 schools today, and that was a great way to wrap her up. And again, we had a great time talking about the science of weather, and they respect that polygon. And more cookies. Oh, wow. Those are just excellent. But the kids could not have been better. Talked about ways of staying safe during severe weather. We talked about hurricanes, obviously, and tornadoes, but they were so good today. So to all my buddies at Danville Neal Elementary, at New Hope Elementary, at Owens Crossroads Elementary School, thanks a lot for 3 great stops today. You guys are looking good. All right, so before we go, we'll kind of summarize things really quickly. We're live here at 3 o'clock, and that's the radar. We have some pretty active thunderstorms across the northwestern counties of Alabama. We have no warnings in Alabama. The storms are under severe limits, and keep in mind, to be severe, you need 1-inch diameter hail or larger, or 58-mile-per-hour winds or greater. And we see no evidence of that in Alabama. We do note that one warning polygon over eastern Mississippi, that storm coming into the northern part of the Golden Triangle. So just be aware we could see a few storms this evening over the Tennessee Valley that might produce some small hail and strong winds. And again, in terms of Helene, no change in the forecast track. Comes in Thursday evening as a major Category 3 hurricane south of Tallahassee. The big impact along and east of that center line. And the remnant circulation coming up through Georgia. We don't expect any tornadoes in Alabama with this. Any tornado threat would be east of Alabama. Again, the higher wind velocities should be east of Alabama. On this projected track, of course, we all know things could change, but this is the way it looks now. In terms of the storm surge around the Florida Big Bend, that's a 10 to 15-foot storm surge expected. That's a big one. That'll create a lot of issues there. And even down in Tampa Bay, the storm surge there, 5 to 8 feet. And that is very meaningful for Tampa Bay. But again, I just caution you, the intensity guidance is all over the board. A lot of possibilities, anything from an upper-end tropical storm to a Category 4. It's all on the board. And, of course, for those in the path of this thing, they have to plan for the upper-end Category 3 or 4, obviously. But the best-case scenario, shear gets involved, some dry air weakens. But, again, we'll just have to wait and see. A lot of rain for the southeast, obviously. In Alabama, the heavier rains on the eastern side of the state. Amounts could exceed 4 inches between now and Friday. Lighter amounts for the western counties, 2 to 3 inches there, 1 to 2 inches down around Mobile. But the big rain should be over by mid-morning Friday, and then we're just down to scattered showers for Friday night and Saturday. So the weather looks much, much better for the high school football games and the big college games in the state on Saturday. Of course, people want to know, could the forecast change? Of course it can. Any tropical forecast can change. And remember, if you're working with old information, you're working with bad information. So obviously stay tuned, and we'll see if anything changes. Once the Corps really gets well organized and the data keeps flowing from the hurricane hunters, the models will be getting better. But again, there's amazing consistency in this idea. The forecast track, the confidence is high. The intensity, the forecast confidence, not as high. But we'll obviously be watching this thing very carefully in coming days. So let's see. Tomorrow I'm going to be down in Enterprise, Coffee County, Alabama, the Wiregrass. Going to see my friends at Brookwood Elementary School. So today up in the Tennessee Valley, tomorrow down in deep southeast Alabama. Thursday we'll be in the weather office all day watching the landfall of Helene. And then Friday, South Shelby Early Learning Center in Calera. And there's no book signing this Saturday. I'll be down in Tuscaloosa for weather support for the Alabama-Georgia game, and we're thankful we don't have to deal with a big landfalling hurricane to foul things up. You know, early in the game, we had to wonder, could this be a problem? But it will not be. Just nothing more than scattered showers around for the Auburn game and the Alabama game on Saturday. And, of course, we invite you to watch us on television this evening. ABC 3340 News at 4, 5, 6, and 10 o'clock right across the hall in Studio A. Thanks for watching. Have a great evening, and God bless.